and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to another episode of Eric Wade Whiskey Studies, and this is the final round, round 4, in my competition between Islay peated 10-year-old single malt Scotch whiskeys. I was originally going to only have 3 rounds, however, I was provided this bottle by Islay of bourbon, wine, and spirits here in Roseville, California, about 1.5 miles from where I live. Really nice shop, really nice owner, and George frequently works there in the shop as well. High quality wines, high quality spirits, and high quality service. I'm not being paid to say this. This is not a quid pro quo. I'll give you a bottle if you mention my name. Just a really nice guy. So basically, he does tastings at the shop, and bottle got down to about here. He's doing other pourings and stuff. So he said, hey, Eric, would you like to have this bottle? I'm like, sure, why not? So it fits right in with my current competition of 10-year-olds from Islay. So Eli, if you're watching this, thank you very much. And he did not tell me to say this. He did not ask me to say this. But, I got to be transparent and say, hey, this is a gifted bottle, which will not have an influence on my decision. Because if favorites were an impact on my decision, the Ardbeg 10 would still be sitting here. Alrighty, so an absolutely fantastic whiskey. It is from a single cask 10-year-old aged in Oloroso sherry butt. It was filled in December 12, 2007, bottled in August 27, 2018, bottled at cask strength at 55.6% alcohol by volume. It is non-chill filtered, has natural color, and if you look around on the internet, prices range anywhere between $162 and $199. So, I've had a number of drams. In fact, Eli and I shared a dram. Really fantastic whiskey, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a little concerned for the Port Charlotte because this is really superb. So first, let's check out the color on this. It has that nice red, sort of dark ruby color. Reminds me of some of the Longrow reds, the Longrow Malbec, Cabernet Franc. They've done Pinot Noirs. It has that color to it. I typically don't get this shade of red from a sherry cask, but on the nose, if you're doing a blind, it doesn't have, I don't think, what people tend to call more of a Campbelltown funk to it. On the nose, really intense fig, dates, raisins, caramel, loads of caramels, vanilla. There is that saltiness there. I get more saltiness from Islay whiskeys than I do from Campbelltown whiskeys. It reminds me of sort of like a melted See's candy. Really rich. There is just a hint of nuttiness. So it kind of, again, reminds me of like a melted candy bar. There's a little bit of citrus as well. Reminds me of maybe like a blood orange, but I also get some nice spices in there. So if you ever have a scented orange, or you take an orange, you stick cloves into it, I get a little bit of that as well. All right, on the palate. Absolutely superb. This is not a wham bam thank you ma'am for the dram whiskey. This is one that really grabbed your attention. It has a long evolution. It sort of ramps up, gains speed, and then really has this nice peak in the mid palate, and has a really long finish with different flavors delivered along the way. It is a little on the sweet side. It is silky and glossy, sort of mouth coating in the feel. On the palate, the nose is confirmed. I get rich caramels, the sort of confectionery fig, date, raisin candy. There's that chocolate with a little bit of nuttiness. The saltiness sort of kicks in on the back end, which I really, really love. The smoke is, I would say, moderate to moderate minus, which had me concerned because Port Charlotte, I know, even if they're at the same ppm, the way it's delivered, the Port Charlotte is a much peatier whiskey. And this has a very, very different profile. This is an absolutely superb whiskey. It even has a little bit of a savory note, although it's much more on the sweet note, whereas the Port Charlotte is much more on the savory note. So this is a little bit more if you got a sweet tooth, but the main thing that just really, really drives us home is the range of flavors, the depth of flavors, and that evolution from beginning to middle to the finish. All right, let's drink a little bit of water. Alrighty, and in this corner, I have the current reigning champion, the Bruichladdich Port Charlotte 10-year-old Islay single malt Scotch whiskey. It is peated at 40 ppm, was aged in 65% first fill American whiskey cask, 10% second fill American whiskey cask, 25% French wine cask, bottled at 50% ABV, sells for anywhere between $55 and $70 here in the United States, and I paid $65. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little concerned for Port Charlotte because I really, really love this one. I gotta call them as I see them, or as I should say, as I taste them. On the color, it has that sort of Chardonnay golden color, golden yellow on the nose. You know what's really, really interesting, and if you don't do these at home, I highly, highly recommend, regardless of whatever whiskeys you use, one whiskey, when put up against another one, really makes the differences sort of pop and stand out, right? You might, in your head, notice the differences between them, but if you actually sit down side by side with a glass of water and some neutral water crackers, I recommend for cleansing the palate, that really makes certain distinctive characteristics really, really pop. It sounds crazy, but I'm noticing things about the Port Charlotte now, or in contrast to the Kilchoman 10 Sherry Butt, that didn't really stand out when I compared it with the Ardbeg or the Kalila 10-year-old. What I'm actually getting now is some of the notes I got when I very first opened this up. The peat is earthier. It is a little bit more vegetal. The savory notes are there. The chocolate notes there. The saltiness is there. But more of that sort of earthy, vegetal note is sort of showing itself a little bit more, which is what I got when I did an uncorking. And I think that's because there's a contrast of the sweetness is making the more savory and earthy notes sort of exaggerated or stand out even a lot more. I get that. I love that. This is the one note. It's not as big as all the other notes on the whiskey, but I love it when I pick it up. It's that overcooked bacon note. The fruit is there, but because this has such intense dried black fruit notes, you know, the fig, the dates, the raisins, the fruit on this isn't shining as much as it was when I previously had it. But it's still there. It's sort of the grilled stone fruits. So if you were to take maybe like a peach and put it on a grill. All right, on the palate. Wow. This is a really interesting experience. It really shows itself different, a little bit, not a huge amount, a little bit different when you're having some other whiskey recently on your palate. Even if you drink water, ate some bread or some crackers or something, certain elements will show forth a little bit more. Which, makes you sort of question whiskey competitions. If someone's had a whiskey after a whiskey, even if they're drinking water in between, your whiskey, if you're entering into a contest, might do worse or better depending on at what stage the judges are tasting it, even if they're not getting a little sauced, you know what I mean? Because their palate's going to be affected by what they previously had. So, and try to be most honest about this, I'm going to take into consideration my prior tastings of this and my prior notes. This is this 4-round competition. This is the most challenging round for me because it's almost like comparing apples with oranges, you know? It's sweet, sherry, dry, black fruit notes with a moderate amount of peat and that nice saltiness there. In comparison to a whiskey, which at least as it's perceived on the palate, more intense peat, more intense smoke, more savory in character rather than sweet in character, although it has a little bit of sweetness as well. But it has that evolution that you're looking for. It has a difference between what you get on the front, the middle, and the finish. For me, that's a big issue. So that it's not just, you know, that sort of simple 3-song chord, you know, something that's not simple, something that gives you an experience even after you swallowed it. And of course, there's always the subjective element of what you prefer at the moment. So, and then this is a question, are we going to take in consideration the price? You know, this, $162 to $200, give or take. This, $50 to $70, I paid $65. So, you know, I can almost get 3 of these for what I paid for 1 of these. You know, at least 2.5 of these for what I paid for these. You know, that's playing in the back of my mind. In terms of the quality-price ratio, I would give it to the Port Charlotte 10. In terms of the wow factor, the ultimate wow factor, I'm probably going to lean a little bit more towards the Kilchoman 10-year-old. However, the other issue is, and what really would make people mad is, yeah, but Eric, how can I get one of those? It's an older bottling, and it's very, very expensive, and it's a single cask, and how in the heck are you going to get a hold of that? And that's the challenge. So, given all these other factors, in terms of the enjoyment factor, the pure enjoyment factor, and how much I love these whiskeys, some people are going to call this a cop-out, but I am going to call it a tie. I'm going to call it a tie. Taking into all the consideration, all the factors involved in these whiskeys, and of course, as I've said before, it's always going to be, you know, according to whatever your mood is. But I'm going to call it a tie, and that these are really stylistically 2 different types of whiskeys, and the only thing they really have in common is flavor-wise is they're 10-year-olds and that saltiness. Other than that, they're really, really, really distinct whiskeys that you really don't, because of that, they kind of don't go side by side. It's almost like comparing a classical guitarist with a rock guitarist, right? It's, you know, 2 different styles of guitars. You get 2 people who are guitarists who are both, you know, as professional and proficient in playing the guitar, and yet you're talking about 2 different styles of music. And that's kind of what I got going on here. So anyway, what I learned from this is there are a lot of core range whiskeys that give you a great bang for the buck, that if you can get them, you can know you're getting stuff that can be as good as the hard to find, rare distillery only, single cask store pick bottles. You know, the hard to find bottles, that they are as good. And so if you can get the Port Charlotte 10, be happy with it. Be happy with it, even if you can't get one of these. And if you happen to be someone who's quite fortunate to get one of these bottles, these special Kilchomans, these are absolutely superb. By the way, I'm going to be reviewing another Kilchoman similar, except for rather than being sherry butt, it is going to be bourbon cask. But in terms of, it's 11-year-old rather than a 10-year-old, but in terms of the approach in which they are emphasizing the cask on the whiskey, it has that sort of emphasis on it. So you're going to want to stay tuned and watch that. All right, I hope you guys have enjoyed this competition. I really, really have. It's been absolutely fantastic and a great learning experience and just doing a side-by-side comparison. All right, if you subscribe to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you haven't yet subscribed, but you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe. And I want to give a special thank to all my Patreons. And thanks for watching and for watching my Patreon videos that I provide through my Patreon account. All right, until next time, Slán Jiva and cheers. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.
Y'all ready for this?